we heard all those stories about the fiscal cliff. Oh my God, the fiscal cliff, fiscal cliff. Okay, you want to know what a cliff is? It's the climate change cliff. That's the reality of the desperate situation we're in when it comes to climate change. For example, in 2012, we broke a record. Congratulations to us. We're number one. 55.3 degrees, warmest year on record in the United States. Now, it's not just the U.S., it's all over the world. So, for example, in Beijing, they have this way of measuring air pollution, and the scale went from 0 to 500, and at 300, it is hazardous to your health. So you don't want to get to 300. They had to change the scale because recently it was at 700. So it reminds me of a Spinal Tap. We put it to 700. Okay, so let me show you just what's happened in a couple of weeks. January 3rd of this year, 2013. This is what Beijing looked like. You could kind of see it. Now let me show you January 14th of 2013. Gone. Now you see it, now you don't. Absolute disaster. Now this disaster is worldwide. Look at that. I can give you 100 scary facts about how bad the smog in Beijing is. So now we've got that in China, we've got it here in the US, broke records on droughts, temperature, you got Superstorm Sandy, the list goes on and on. Well, there's a national climate assessment that's supposed to be done. There's a development advisory committee around it. 240 scientists worked on it. 13 federal agencies. So these guys went and studied all of the data. And we have our first look into what the report is going to say. Here we go. Quote, summers are longer and hotter, and periods of extreme heat last longer than any living American has ever experienced. Winters are generally shorter and warmer. Rain comes in heavier downpours, though in many regions there are longer dry spells in between. Other changes are even more dramatic. Oops. Continuing. Residents of some coastal cities see their streets flood more regularly during storms and high tides. Inland cities near large rivers also experience more flooding, especially in the Midwest and Northeast. Hotter and drier weather and earlier snow melt mean that wildfires in the West start earlier in the year, last later into the fall, threaten more homes, cause more evacuations, and burn more acreage. Great. But let's not worry about the climate cliff. That's no big deal. We're only burning the planet down. Oh my God, fiscal cliff! Taxes are going to go up on the rich. Oh, this panic, panic. Compare the coverage of climate change. I mean, look at this report coming out saying we've got catastrophic situation on our hands. How much coverage has it got? How much have you seen it on TV? When you look at the fiscal cliff, which was, oh my God, tax cuts on the rich, they can't let them expire. How much coverage did that get? Hours and hours, days and days, weeks and months. They wouldn't stop talking about the fiscal cliff. Gee, I wonder if our politics and our media is run by money, and so it turns out the only thing that they cover are the concerns of people with money. And if, for example, you had an industry that made a tremendous amount of money from making sure that we didn't talk about climate change and burn more fossil fuels, I wonder if that would have an effect on our government and our media. Let me think about that and get back to you. I'll get back to you next year when the planet will melt even more.